Good morning, traders. Welcome to daily webinar. For my YouTube viewers, this one will be out. My apologies for Friday. I promised you guys an entire week, but Friday I was in the hospital with my daughter, so I couldn't do the webinar. And what I'll do as a compensation is I'm going to give you this week free as well. Right? So if you like what I do, if you follow what I do, please share it. That's the only thing I'm asking to do, share it as much. So I'm starting with this results. This is results of one of our traders, and it's a trader who actually came back, who was with us for a while. He was with us for, I think, about 2 or 3 years before. He went away for a year or so to do some stuff. He actually explained all of that, but that is less important. What is important is he came back in March, and these are his results. So I'm going to explain these results mostly for my traders, not so much for those struggling traders. I think on an average, we have about 60% of successful traders in the group. We will do a poll today to see that results. Among the active traders. And I hope the non-active traders are also doing very well because they're not very active here. They're probably doing good for themselves. They still watch the daily webinar. So these results might look fantastic if you're looking at it and you're a struggling trader. If you're struggling, you might say, well, oh, these are amazing. How do you do that if you're a struggling trader? And on average, if you look at the two things I want to focus on is the win-loss ratio, right? It's only about 2/3, right? So I will say you're winning 2/3 of the thing, you're losing 1/3 of it, right? So 2/3. So it's 2 to 1 win-loss ratio. So you're winning 2, you're losing 1. Basically, if you look at it like general, looks like more of them. It's even more because this is close to 30 and that is close to 50. So it's more than 1/3 you're losing, but and still have fantastic results. So how does that happen? Well, I was explaining to one of my traders that I did a one-on-one with this morning who's struggling. And I said, okay, do your money management calculation. And let's say on your account, I'm going to take a general account. Let's say you have a 10K account, right? And you're risking, I don't know how much, $100, $200 per trade. Depending on your calculation and your money management, you guys know how we calculate our money management. There is a whole thing to do that. So let's say on an average, you're risking $200 per trade, right? Say that's on your 10K, you're risking $200 per trade. And you're taking 80 trades or 76 trades per month, right? So let's say, I'm going to be more modest. Let's say you don't take 76. Let's say you take 50 trades. Let's say you win 30, you lose 20, right? So I'm going to go with that. So if you lose 20, you're losing 4,000 per month. If you win 30, you're making, and that is if you win 1-to-1 and you're losing 1-to-1, we're going with standard, you're making 6,000. So on an average, you made 2,000. That's not very fantastic, but that's good because that's 20% of your account for the month, right? If you're doing the basic stuff and this is like the worst results you should get. Let's look at how we in our group manage that. Most of your losses, and I think all of you can agree with that, most of your losses goes to break even if you use the money management strategy we're using, right? Most of those losses will go to break even. So let's say 50% goes to break even. That means you only lose $2,000, basically, right? And some of your wins will go to double. I think all of you know that. Some go to double, some might even go to triple. So let's say you double half of your wins, right? So 15, so instead of 6,000, you add 3,000 to that more. That is 9,000 you're making on the win side. So -2 from 9, you end up with 7,000. 7,000 into your 10,000. Not amazing anymore, right? So 78% is no longer amazing. And this is what this guy explained. I don't want to know if I want to, he gave me permission to use his name, but I think for the general public, the name is unimportant. What is important is the trader itself. You guys know who he is, who are in the group, you know, right? So this is what he's doing. He said the new strategy when he came back is so amazing that it just helped him to reduce the losses and increase the wins. That's all there is. There is no magic in it. It's how we manage the new management strategy of the trades is what is doing this magic. So if you take the very basics, and I mean, you can all agree that we are getting this thing more than 60%, even the YouTube viewers, look at all my forecasts and more than 60% of the time we are right about it. So there's no questions of whether you can win 2/3 of your trades. There's absolutely no question. 50 trades per month, that is really small. On an average, we take about 4 or 5 trades a day in the room. We have those setups because we look at a wide variety of trades. But let's go less. Let's be modest. Let's say you only make 2 trades a day. Some days you make 3. You can get to that results pretty easy. Even if you take 1 trade a day, you're 10, 15, 20% a month is easy to do. And that's why our traders are successful. Why we still have struggling traders? Well, we're always going to have struggling traders because we have a lot of new traders joining us, and we have a lot of new traders who are working. They don't have that much time to focus on the trading and all of that. But what I'm going to do this month in the group is I'm going to do what I started doing. I'm going to do one-on-one with all the struggling traders. We've been doing that all the time, but now I'm putting them to give me update. And I can actually show you the update of one trader that I speak to. She hasn't replied to me and given me the permission to use her name as yet. So I'm not sure if I can do that, but during the week, I'll show you. And she actually showed from the moment she spoke to me to where she is today. And it's pretty amazing. It's only 1 month, but because I've given strict rules of what to do and how to change that trading, the results are amazing. We're going to continue to have new traders joining us on a daily basis all the time, right? People just join the group whenever they're ready to learn and they're serious about learning. So this is one trader who came back. We have a lot of successful traders. I'll probably do the poll and post out at the end of this week. So if you're following me, you'll see that. Let's go. So although it looks amazing, it's not that difficult to do. If you follow the rules, if you actually follow don't over leverage, don't over risk, use the money management rules. And I mean, on a $10,000, $200 a trade is not that much. You can calculate the percent and see it's not really that much. You're not over risking in your trades. And sometimes, if you're more experienced, there are things you will do. He's a very experienced trader. He's been with us before. He knows all the patterns and all of that. So let's come back to doing the webinar. Dollar index. Let's go. I'm going to go really quick because there's not a lot to do here. We're consolidating this. I think we're probably making some kind of a B wave structure here. We'll probably come back, and that would probably be a flat for the upside. For my traders, you'll also have to be careful that it could be the start of a down move. Right? I don't think we broke the top. I think we'll break that top a number of times more. But this could be a bigger correction. If it stays in this range, which means if they come back here and do this, we could drop lower, make a bigger correction, make a new high. Now, as a rule, when they're starting to end, when momentum starts to die, the corrections get deeper. Right? The corrections get deeper and they'll make a new high, and corrections get deeper and they make a new high. And then you see there is no more buying, not more buying coming in, so it starts to drop. Right? The buy orders are no longer there. That's why momentum dies. And then the sell starts to come in, right? So we will see that happening, and that will be the change of the structure. And we're at the top. So for those who didn't think we could get there, we got there. And which means I still think this can go a little higher. With deeper pullback, deeper pullback, deeper pullback, it will start probably curve out. We might start to see this kind of curving out like this, and then we can see the drop. Sometimes it's very sharp and a very sharp reversal. I don't know which one it's going to be. You don't need to know that. That's the whole thing. You don't need to know that. You will find that on the lower time frame in the structure. So is this the start of the downside? Again, I don't think so. We did tag the top, but I don't think so. I think we're going to make more highs before they come. And that means we're going to be looking at the yen for the turning point. We're going to be looking for euro a turning point. We'll see if euro breaks the low. We'll be looking for a lot of very good trades, including Australia breaking the low, going up. We'll be looking for a lot of turning points. And that is going to be good trading. So let's go. Silver. The sells are still there. They're doing well. Let me take this off. That was breaking the top. We still have sell set up. If you're selling this, you're still doing well. Now we can look at this either as trying to make a separate bigger correction here. I'll take this off. Or we can look at this as probably a bigger flat of its own, right? We can either put it like this. There was a possibility you can look at that internally as a separate running flat, or we will stick to this one. Both of those options we looked at last week. We will stick to this one for now. Let's see what this does. This one is really sharp. And I think when that is so sharp, it's more likely we're looking at this possibility. So any flag you get here becomes a sell. If you're in the trade, you should close that already. Any flag we get here becomes a sell setup. I don't think it's reversing as yet. We still will probably break this low. I do think we'll probably break this low before we start the up move. Well, let's see how that goes. If it's going to break the low, we might get a flag, we might get a deep correction, and then it's going to drop. We don't have anything here for the upside as yet. It's mostly a sell setup today. And if it stays as a small correction, it will be a sell setup. Let's go with this. Okay, so again, we were looking at this as a possible small flag to come down. It went higher. Can we look at it as a possible expanding flat instead of a running flat? I think that is possible. I don't see anywhere to put this, so I will go with that possibility for now as an expanding flat. This could change for traders who are looking at this. This could change, and this is how it would change. If we end up with this making, before breaking the low, we end up with this making a deeper correction here, we're going to find a smaller version of that, and we're going to look for a bigger running flat here, which means we're going to drop, we're going to go back up, and then we're going to make the final drop. Is that possible based on structures we have? Absolutely, right? It's absolutely possible that they can make some kind of a correction in this move before they drop. Not necessarily it's going to drop like this. So I believe we'll probably get a bigger correction. If we get a flag here, we'll sell it. We'll take the flag. It will have to break down. And if it's a new running flat or a bigger correction, they will go back up. This will be a break-even trade for us. On the way up, we might or might not buy it, but then we're going to sell this to break the low here. Remember, this at some point goes back up. Pretty sure, right? That will go back up. The question is it going to go back from here, or is it going to make a new low? I think a new low is very possible. Although you can make an assumption that 1, 2, 3 is already there, right? Just like this, 1, 2, 3. But there might be a possibility where it comes lower. I don't see the turning point this year. This is not the turning point. So let's see if we get it. Either this is an expanding flat, any flag here you sell. If you're in this sell already, if any of my traders took that sell or this sell, you just manage it. If this becomes a bigger correction, and I believe it might become a bigger correction, whereby we do this, come here and then go back up, well, good for us. We'll get a trade here and then we'll get trades up and then we'll sell it down. Right? Why we would take this up? Well, if this is still the expanding flat, this could take off. If not, it's going to come here and come down. And let me take a pause at this moment to explain to the YouTube viewers what I just said, because my traders, I think all of you got exactly what I said. Right? You understand in terms of patterns what I'm trying to explain there, right? That there are two possible patterns, and this is how we're going to deal with each pattern if we get the setups for them. If you're watching on YouTube, especially if you're a new trader and you don't understand wave analysis, you're going to say this guy just gave us a possibility of it going up and a possibility of going down, and you're absolutely correct. Congratulations, you've learned one thing, that there are more possibilities in trading. It's not just, hey, it is going to go up or it's going to go down. It goes sideways. And when it's going sideways, it's called consolidation. That is where you decide, right? Is this a sideways for upside or is this a sideways for downside? And that depending on what the bigger pattern is showing you. So go back and watch at my webinars, and the bigger pattern I showed you some weeks ago, some days ago, I think I showed you that even a few months ago, if you want to go back and look at it, right? Is that this is a big consolidation. And that because this is really sharp, when it comes here, and I thought it will only break this top, it's going to come back down as a running flat. It broke the top quite a while, and then it's coming back down. Again, to remind you, when this was happening, that is not a surprise to us. It's just different from what you're expecting. You're expecting a simple running flat. You got a little longer drawn running flat. In terms of the bigger chart, that is pretty normal. That's a normal running flat. Just like you had this one here. See how low this came here? There was no war going on. A reminder to my good friend who still has to join the group. You still have to come join the group, my friend, so you learn. That is not the war that is creating this pattern. It's a sum total of everything, including manipulation, including making money. That's the whole point, right? There was no war that made this drop so low and then go back up there and then come down. So we're expecting this to come here and then go back up. When it starts to go back up, you can shout again that, oh my God, this is why it's going up. It's a safe haven. If you want to call it safe haven, that's good for you. I think we just look at the charts and I understand what they're doing. So we're expecting some more downside. If it goes down more, we will sell. If it doesn't go down more, we will look for buy setups. Because can it stop here and go back up? And would we put this here and said, well, that's the pattern? Absolutely. You can make an argument that this is equal to this now, and they can go back up. But again, what would make that happen is you would look for the setups to say, hey, wait, it's a buy setup now. We don't have a buy setup. See the difference of what we do here. And we do this 5-6 times a day in our trading room, which you don't have access to. So you wouldn't get the change, you will not get the trades. Right now, if it gets a sell, we'll take it. If it doesn't get a sell, we will wait for it to go back up. We'll figure out what this pattern changed to, right? I really don't think it's this big expanding flat. It is a possibility, but I think it's likely we will make something more here, come like this, go back like this, make a bigger one here. I think that's the most likely pattern we're looking at. This will come here. This would probably be a lower degree pattern somewhere in here. And you would say, well, why are you saying it could be this or it could be? Because it's fractal in nature. And when I said fractal in nature, I mean there's so many patterns of different degrees that sometimes you might look at a smaller degree pattern and you might think, well, that's it. And then you look back at it because the more pieces are added, if you combine them, you have a bigger pattern. that is pretty much a pattern by itself, right? It doesn't change what you were looking at. It's just what you were looking at were a little too early. But that doesn't stop you from trading. That's the whole point. We're trading here. So if we get setups that fits a certain pattern, we take the trades. If it doesn't, then you're not in the trade. You don't have to worry about what happened to it. So we'll see if we get it to come here today, or if it's going to consolidate deeper. Any sell setup you get here, you should take it. I explained this one a couple of days back when this was happening, that these are sharp waves and you don't need to worry. They will have to consolidate in the middle. I still think we're in that consolidation here. They'll probably come back here. There's a good chance it goes back there, or this comes, break this low, and then go back up and then come back down. It will drop. It's just making a very big consolidation here before it drops. I said stay away from it while you're doing all of this. Now I think it's going to get interesting. I'm not sure that this one is the one that is coming for this one. I think we might be still doing this here as a more complex pattern. I think my traders could see it. I believe we might be looking at something like this, which means we could still come only here and go back up. If we get this as a running flat or an expanding flat, we'll look at this, we'll get that trade down. You don't need to trade that. If it comes and go back up, ignore that one. We want this big drop. We want a flag like that. We'll take this one. And then we want the upside and we want the downside. So those three will have good risk to reward, right? While it's in here, stay away from it. Euro. Yep, I think we're going to have more downside. You don't put this entry order here. That was if it was making a flag. It didn't make a flag. It made a flat. Actually, it's making a flat still. It's becoming a bigger flat. So this piece seems to be making part of a flat here. This is sharp. This is sharp. There's a good chance you go there, come back here, go back up, and then we will probably have one more drop. Right? Can we buy our way to the upside? Well, this is not the low. We haven't broken this low. Unlike the dollar index, we haven't broken the low. There's a very, very high probability we must break that low, right? Let's look at the weekly and see if there's any chance you don't have to break the low. Well, not necessarily. You're in a correction, so there's no necessity to break the low, but it would be good if we break the low, right? This can go up back from there, and this would be in terms of this piece coming here. Nah, most likely they will break the low. It's rare to see a contracting flat at the end of a pattern. It will not be a contracting flat. So we're likely going to break that low either sometime this week. And then once we break the low, we start looking for the reversal. It doesn't mean the reversal starts. It means we start looking for it. So if there's any buy setup, we'll absolutely take it, right? So let's see, maybe we're going to have one more drop. Look for the trade setups, manage it. And the 15, if you're going to take a trade, I think we're probably consolidating here still. We're not dropping. This would become more of a bigger consolidation, and then we're going to get the drop. So that should be a good trade setup for us eventually. Let it play out. Pound. Okay, so pound, we were expecting that it could make another drop. They actually went up. I think the buy setup, this entry was for a seller. This was a small flag when I left you on Thursday. I wasn't here on Friday, so as you can see, instead of dropping, they went up. That would have given you guys a buy setup. If you took it, if you didn't take the bicep, this becomes the low, right? So on the 15, you would probably see that this was, we'll go with this as a smaller flat here, a low, and this is the upside. If you didn't get the buy, no problem. Can this turn from this point and go back up? I don't think so. I think we'll probably break the low. It could be a 1, 2, 3, still go back up from this point, but I believe they will break this low too. So if I'm looking at sell setups on the pound, those would be amazing, because there's still a lot to break the low. Whereas on the euro, there isn't a lot to break the low. So let's say we get sell setups, we should be focusing on the pound. Let's say we get buy setups, we should focus on the euro. But let's go back to the 1 hour. All we have is one impulse up. So this is not anything as yet. That doesn't mean anything. We'll have to track how low this comes, how corrective it comes, or how fast it comes. And then we would decide within that range, can we trade within the range? Let's see. So that's about 100 and 200 pip range. Yes, we can trade in the range, which means any trade up and down here we can take. Let's take this off and see if we have any setup. This was a sell, take that off. That's a sell that is gone. When you want to know how, I was telling you can make quite a lot, right? This is a good sell. This would be a break-even sell. This would be a good sell. Here dropping, and then you'll be out of that trade. So in the 15, we'll probably be consolidating here more. If we get trade setups, we can take it. There was a 15-minute sell. If you're looking at this and you're expecting this to come lower, let's see if we get another one, we'll take it. We'll trade within the range. Aussie. Perfect. So we were looking at this as possible running flat, but when I left you guys Thursday, I said, watch it for this to probably be one as well, if this goes back, right? So if that goes back, you would probably have this as the bigger flat. If you were selling the running flat, I hope you got break even, because your entry should be here, your stop should be here, right? That's how we trade running flats. If you're trading that running flat, I would hope you don't wait for it to come to this level. You probably close the trade right here. On the hourly, yes, you had enough reason to close it there. So if you got tagged in that trade there, you got tagged in this one, but you had 1-2 hours here. If you close it here, that's okay, right? So if you were putting an entry, a stop here with an entry here, and you close that trade there, and you actually bought this, you did well, right? I think you figure out what I'm saying, right? You would close the trade here. That is where you should close it. So this was your loss, which means, remember I said 50% of your losses you can cut for more than break even, close to break even. This is what I mean. Right, a lot of your losses should close there. You don't know whether this was going to go back up to the top, right? Now, did we break the low? That would be one of the reasons. If you decided I'm going to keep it because we haven't broken this low. But the best thing would have been to take it out and re-enter. And if you're going to re-enter this trade for a sell, you would re-enter it in the break of this if you want, the downside, after you have decided that this was a running flat. So take that out. If we get a flag here, there's a trade. It's not very good risk to reward, because now all they need to do is break this low. And once you break that low, this correction could be over. This entire correction here could be over, or there might still be more in it, right? I think this is pretty sharp. So this would be a correction of its own going up. Whether we look at that as a possible running flat with this one, this sharp one, remember we had that sharp one at the top there. Whether we look at that as a possible running flat in that one, especially if this comes here, break the low and start going back up, that would make a lot of sense now. Right? So while this was standing alone here, it didn't make a lot of sense. Now it's making a lot of sense. So now we would see whether we look at this whole structure as this for the upside. This will go back up. Now, the only question is how low it's going to come before it goes back up, which means we still sell, right? We're not going to stop the selling because we are expecting it. It hasn't even broken the lows yet. So if you get a sell set up here today, that's a trade you should take. We'll see. We'll try to find the best entry, and we'll try to, especially if the correction gets bigger, it'll be better for us. New Zealand, what if they're trying to reverse? As of now, you see that's not a reversal, right? It's kind of consolidating. If it's going to start a reverse, they'll have to make a sharp move, a flag, and then we will definitely buy. New Zealand, good sell setups if you're taking them. And let's go to the 4 hours, see where, well, the magic works. This is where we wanted it to go, right? Come from the top straight to the bottom. This, if you didn't get any in the Aussie, you should have got all in the New Zealand, because there was no question in the New Zealand whether it will go. There was a question in the Aussie at some point, right? There are a few points where we thought the Aussie is a bigger running flat, not in the New Zealand. That was not the case. So New Zealand was there because this was corrective, it's going to drop. Now we start looking for buy setups. Is it going to turn from this point? Here's another question. Can this thing drop lower, much lower, right? Before it goes back up. Remember the Euro-Yen. Go back, remember the Euro-Yen. When it broke through this structure, dropped a little deeper, and then went back. I think it's the same as possible here. Now, how deep it could go, we don't know. Can we sell it? Yes. You have to be aware that you're selling a high-risk trade, right? The risk is high because at any point in time, it can turn. And it doesn't have to turn together with the Aussie. That whole thing about correlation is nonsense, right? The Australians are not correlating their economy with the New Zealanders. I don't think they have the agreement that they're going to correlate their economy, right? So that their currency would move alike. If you assume it's a dollar movement, yes, all the dollar pairs would move. That is a dollar change of value, not a New Zealand change of value or Aussie change of value. What I'm saying here is that the Aussie or the New Zealand can independently change their value, which means New Zealand can independently get stronger. For whatever reasons in the world is happening, don't ask me, right? I'm not good at telling you the reason. I'm good at telling you what the patterns could probably do, because they do that over and over. Can it make a flag and drop more? We will sell. So if you get a sell setup, the line is irrelevant to it, right? The line is just to give us a gauge in the pattern. It can still be a sell. It's not going to bounce off that line. Line is not going to turn on the line. The line has no value. Nobody knows the line is there. There is no line there. That is something we put to understand when we have broken the lows of the pattern or whether we're still in that pattern. That's all there is to it. Don't let the line confuse you. If it's going to confuse you, we should take it out. If you get a flag, sell. Can it give you a sharp move up and then go down? I think that's a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get this to make a sharp move up like that, give us a running flat here and then drop. Now, there is a chance you can use this with a lot of other smaller pieces here. I think we can see them. But you can also use it with this one. So we'll keep both of them. We will keep that open. We'll keep an open mind in both of those options. Can this turn to the upside? If there's anything that could turn to the upside, it will be this one, because this one has a complete pattern in it. Right? So if we start see buy setups here, we'll take it, because this one does have a complete pattern. Swiss. Okay. We definitely don't have a sell setup. I don't think this is correct. I think this is something more like this. It might have come a little lower, but I don't think it dropped that much. We haven't broken the top, so I would assume we're still in consolidation. We will eventually break that top again, right? I'm not interested in the buy here. We'll just leave that alone for now. CAD, we're interested in the buy, not this buy. Definitely not that buy. So Thursday, when I leave you, we had an entry for a buy there. I hope you guys got out of it or closed it. You can see that the consolidation here didn't go far. We probably made a flat. I would assume we made this as a flat. But if you stay with the trade, you still got out of it for positive. I hope so, because if you put an entry there, your stop would probably either be here or here, right? If we think of a bigger running flat, it would be here. But if you look at it there and you close the trade in here, that's good, because you have more than 3 hours there. I think you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. That's enough to close. By rule, you should close that trade. Follow the rules. They do help. Right? I did a one-on-one with a trader this morning, and I was showing him that if he had followed the rules, the 3 biggest losses he had in his account, we looked at the account and said the 3 biggest losses would have actually been break-even trades. We looked at the 3 biggest losses he had, and they were huge. Those were the losses that are actually making him get a loss in his account. Without those 3 losses, his account would be pretty much positive. And they were break-even trades if you follow the rules. So that's a good example for all of you, right? That is an information that you need to know. If he didn't do that, he probably could have been at break-even. Those were the 3 big losses that actually put the account into minus. He would be break-even, maybe because he made a lot of positive trades, but the positive were small, and those 3 were huge big losses. He made some small losses as well, which were break-even. But the 3 losses, the 3 biggest ones, he made 5 big losses, but the 3 biggest were the big ones that damaged it. And if you look at them, I showed him step by step how those trades could have been break-even. So follow that rule. It is making a difference. Listen to the people who are using the rule. Right? So let's go. Dollar yen. Here is a question. Are we turning? Right? The question is, are we turning? I don't think so. It doesn't look like that. This looks like a deep pullback. If you guys got any of this trade, amazing. You should close them here. This looks like a deep pullback, but I think we could probably either see this go back up higher, make another one and go make a new high. That's possible. Or if this comes lower here and start to consolidate in this range, we'll look for sell setups. On the 15th, we look at this morning. I think there's a possibility they'll come here, make a flat. They might just go back up, and that depends on how high they go. This looks very correct, but I don't think that's a start of a downside. It could be all the correction, and this one could go make a new high. Then we look for sell setups. Can we buy this? Well, if it's in a B wave, you can buy it, but you'll have to go for break even, which means if you get a buy setup here, going up to that top, we'll move the stops because it could still come back here and go. If you look at the previous one, you would understand what I'm saying, right? This was the move down. That was the correction. This is here. So right now we're in the correction phase. Let's see what happens at this stage. Right, and then we'll go with that. Euro New Zealand. It actually went higher. Take this off. Do we assume that that's a new high, is a contracting flat? Do we have any contracting flats there? Nope. So we'll probably go with the running flat we were looking at. When I leave you Thursday, I said keep your eyes open for this possibility as well, right? Whether this becomes a running flat. I think we'll put it to this level, right? Which is this one. This one actually is the copy from here, right? That's how we come there. It did pull back and make a new low. So let's assume that that was a running flat. Where a possible buy setup would have come in, maybe on this one here. If you're looking at this and you think, well, that, or probably even with this one here as a running flat, I think that's how you should put it. That's the correct way. You could either look at this 2 ways, either put this one here. I think that's a running flat there. And this would be a separate one. Yeah, this is the bigger one. So an entry either above here, or an entry above here, or an entry here. Put it break even, put an entry there. Now, if we look at that as a running flat, then we have to come back and look at this as a contracting flat. Right, those were the two options. So if we look at this as a contracting flat, this becomes the low, and that's a running flat for upside. Right, we're going to assume that's a running. So all buy setups we can take, which means if you took a flag here already, you close that for break even, you can put an entry here for a buy. We're going to close that entry if this becomes a much bigger correction. If this here becomes a much bigger, or if it drops, make a flag, we'll go for the sell. Right? This could still be a very deep correction and we drop, right? Because it has a running flat in the middle. It could be a separate deep correction and they drop, make a new low, go back up. But we would assume that this is the low for now and this could totally go up. Right? So those two were options. This one turned out to be the running flat there. Let's see if that's the start of the upside. Remember, the bigger picture is upside. And that bigger picture could start anytime, including right now. So we will take all buy setups. You see, this one was pretty slow at the start here too. This is the daily, I mean. This was pretty slow from the upside. If you're going to 4 hour, that's a weekly, sorry, I mean. If you're going to 4 hour and you go back to that level, you'll see that the up move was really, really slow in the start. And sometimes that happens where the starting point is really slow, but they still go. I don't know if that 4 hour will allow us to go back that far. Let's put in the daily. So we can get to go back that far in the daily. And I'm talking about this level. So there was a daily correction in here. See that daily correction in here? That was a daily correction before this move go up. Which means at this point, if we start to get a daily correction, nothing's wrong with that, right? Think of this as the daily correction here. If that starts to go, that's a good trade. So keep an eye on the hourly and we'll see if it goes. Right? I don't think it's a running flat. This will have to be a flag or we're coming down lower. Make a new low, then go back up. Eurocad, perfect buy setup. There is nothing to go with this. If it comes down slowly, if this is going to be a B wave and it comes down slowly like this, we can only sell if we get a flat. Come here, go back up there and then sell, right? But as of now, it's a flag, so we'll put the buy setup. And we'll see whether that changes. Euros. Okay, the sell would have been a break even. Take that out. You end up with a bigger running flat here. If you sold a bigger running flat, also would be a break even because you get many hours here sideways. So both of those are break even. Let's put this here. That is for Friday when I was not here. So either way, you could have sold that and take break even out of it. Put this here. Good. So we have a buy setup because this one would go break this top, right? There's a good chance this, after consolidation, go break that top. Well, let's see what happens when we break that top because this is still pretty corrective. And the same question would come, would we look at this as a contracting flat if this continues to go up? We could look at it. This is not exactly the corrective way the corrective structure we would look for. There is no big flat, but it's very slow. And you do have small corrections in it. All are sharp. This one is relatively sharp. This one is relatively sharp. This one is relatively sharp. So we'll see. Maybe we're making a much bigger flat here, but there's a buy setup here, which means if we get this buy, we can take it to break the top. All right, wait for it to consolidate, go for the buy, watch it to break this top. Let's see how high it goes, and then we'll take profit. Euro-Swiss. The sell was okay. I think you probably closed it earlier. On this sell didn't drop the way you would have closed it here. If you took that sell on the way up, you would have closed it there. If you sold that, you would have closed it there. The re-entry would have been a break even. So even if you took a series of trade there, they will all be break even or small profit. So let's take this off. It did come down, but not the way I expected to come down. So let's look at it this way. We didn't break the low. We could still go and break that low. I still think it's possible to come break the low. So we'll look at this right now as a possible deeper correction. We can look at this whole piece here as a possible bigger correction forming there now. Go back to the 15. You can see this piece here. Right? There's they did break the low here. So we'd either look at this as a running flat in the making because I think this is the lowest, or that is the first move up. If that's the first move up, we would look for a buy setup. But right now, let's see if it comes lower. If it comes lower, then we will get a flat. We'll probably drop and break the low once more. I do think we should break this low because this is really short. It doesn't make sense at that point. We need to come. We broke this low. Let's see if we broke this low. Yeah, we kind of break this low. So if this wants to go back up from this point, can we look at these two as a flat of its own with an expanding flat in the middle or a running flat in the middle? It's possible. I think this should come a little lower, and then that up move would make better sense. So we don't trade this today. We can wait for it, see if it's downside or upside, and then we'll decide. A little more would work. So just a little more down before we go back up, right? Probably one more drop, and then we'd expect this to go back up. If it gives a drop, we'll trade it. If it doesn't give the drop, we'll wait for the buy setup. Euro-Yen. Okay, that's a sharp drop. We'll probably make another big flat here and go back up because they're making a correction here. We'll probably see a possible correction there. We might, if they could consolidate here a while more, go back there, come back here, go up, make a new high, and then drop. And that's the most likely scenario because this is really sharp, right? I'm looking at the first impulse, the second impulse, within this correction. So if you get a big flat here, you go back up one more, come back, then go there. That's a tradable range, right? The range itself is tradable. So we can trade it. Euro-Pound. Okay, this didn't break the top. That makes it strange. Take this off. It's not a sell. Because if we didn't break this top, there's a sharp one. So you need to go back up sharp. And then we would look for a sell setup here to come down, making this the running flat. So if we get that, we will trade it down to this low, and then we'll put it into positive because this could go back up here, or it could come make a new low. I think a new low is more likely. But I would assume that the new low is more likely because then we don't have anywhere to put this. And I don't think we're looking for some kind of an expanding flat in the middle there. All right, so we'll see. We'll wait on that one. Pound Swiss. We broke the low. So the question is, are we going back up? If you take this here as a correction of its own, right, then the question is, are you going back? But if you take this as an expanding flat, which could be as an expanding flat here, then this should come down back. So if we get any sell setup, we'll go with it. One drop, probably break all these lows again, and then look for the upside. Bigger picture, this is what it looks like, right? So we'll watch when we break that low there, if they're going to go back up or if they will continue to make another correction. So if we get this drop to come this level, the point is, will we do this and drop again, or is it going to do that? That's all. That's all you need to know. So go back to the 1 hour. If we get a sell setup, we'll take it. Let's see. No, we don't. There was a 15-minute here, but that's a little too aggressive. I don't think you should take it. Wait for a 1 hour flag, right? If we get a 1 hour flag, we'll go with the trade. And I think we can take that as an expanding flat because this does have a flat here, right? Making a 1, a 2, and a 3. This is sharp, and this is sharp. So any flag here would be a sell setup. Pound New Zealand. Okay, this one went up one more. I think the question we were looking at Thursday when I left was whether we would look at this here as a running flat and put this as a smaller option in here, or whether we look at this as a running flat. I think we could do that. Now that we break the top, we could look at that as running flat. If it comes here and make a flag, we're selling. Right? If it goes there, make a flag, we're selling. We know Pound has the potential to go down more, right? And so are the Pound trades, because we didn't break this low either, and we definitely need to break that low. If this is the correction, this one needs to drop, break the low, and then we'll see how low they go. Considering Pound has to go lower, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this actually comes here, break this low, and then it's either two things: we go back up, or we continue to break this low, right? So if this is a 1, 2, 3. We can go back up. If it is a 1, 2, 3 comes all the way to the bottom, also good, because then this could be all the correction. It could be more complex, which means you go back up like this, and now you get a bigger correction here, right? That's a weekly correction, monthly correction we're looking at. Let's see if we get a sell setup from the top there, right? That makes sense. Wait for the flag, wait for it to come, and then we look for the sell. It's not a bias yet. If it's going to be a buy, it will be a flat. Pound Yen. I think we can get one more up on the Pound Yen. This will mostly be a yen trade. And I think there's a good chance we break these stops first, because this looks like a perfect running flat, right? And there's a flat there. So either put an entry order here, that's a contracting flat, or it stays here a while more and then go. right? You see it looks like a contracting flat right now. They're making a small flat there. We'll do this in the trading room. They're making a small flat there. We'll try to trade this. Because if this flat is perfect, if that is all, this could go up. So we'll go for that trade in the trading room. We'll have to manage it very closely though. Pancad. Yeah, you can look for a buy setup here. Let it consolidate. It has to consolidate. Then we go to buy setup. Daily, can this go back up? Well, yes, it can go back up, and it can go back up pretty high, right? This could go pretty high. So if we get a buy setup, we'll see. It could be one sharp move like this, all the way to the top there, and then come back down again. So go to the 1 hour. If we get anything that has a buy setup here, we'll go with it. It's not a bias yet. You can see this is coming down slowly. So let's leave it. Can it become a sell setup whereby this, may come here, make a flag and start to do this? Go back there and then drop. We'll look for that sell setup. If it's a buy, we'll take the trade. Well, this looks, it went up, so we'll probably be in a bigger corrective structure. This is Thursday. If you took that trade, you should have taken this one, not here, but here. Sorry. Should have taken it from this flag. And once it comes to this level, you have enough for break even. Even at this level, you have enough for break even. It's about 6 to 10 hours there. Right? Let's see what this does. Okay, if you take this off, we're in a bigger correction, or did we make a bigger expanding flat? That's the only question. Is that a bigger running flat, or is that a bigger running flat? And we're trying to head, or are we trying to make a bigger running flat here? Either of those two possible, right? Now this is pretty sharp. So if we're making a bigger running flat here, that would be a long drawn out pattern, right? You have 2 sharp waves in it. If we get sell setup, we'll take it and we'll put this as the bigger running. We'll use the bigger running flat for now, right? And if we get any sell setup here, we'll take that trade and we'll see what happens. It comes down slow, it will go back up, make a bigger flat here, make a new high and then drop. If it comes really fast, we're going to break the low. So we'll have to wait and see which one. Any sell setup we'll take. We haven't broken this top as yet, so I hope they go break that top. Maybe go break the top first, then come down. See the 15, nothing. So let it go break the top first. I don't want this to probably do this, come here, break that top, and then start a drop. That'd be a better trade setup for us. Aussie-Swiss. Okay, this is a perfect sell setup here. You got the bigger pattern. You got 1, 2, 3. I think this is crystal clear. You can literally see this. You got 1, 2, 3. You got 1, 2, 3. You got 1, 2, 3. Look for sell setups to break this low. Let's see what the bigger picture is. Okay, so the bigger picture is downside. Makes sense, right? Because this one was really slow. I think we're going to be, if this keeps coming down here, it's going to come down back to about this level, maybe make a deep pullback and drop again. And then we'll see whether we go with this as the biggest structure, right? Probably look at this as a flat. This whole piece here would be a big flat, right? With a 1, 2, 3 in the middle, 1, 2, 3 there, and then come back here. So we're looking for a big flat pattern here, and then the upside. Complex. Let's go for the sell. This was an easy one. If any one of you got a sell from the top, that's great. If not, let's wait and see. It's in a 15. Right, there weren't really any sell setup. This is about the first sell setup you're getting. Right, this here is about the first sell setup you're getting. So we'll take the trade. Aussie yen. I'll be careful with this one, because this piece here, that's a deep pullback, very deep pullback. It's consolidating here, but that's a deep pullback, which means this could go back up there. Maybe even make a new high. I wouldn't be surprised if we look at this as the running flat. Right? If this turned out to be the running flat. Expanding flat, sorry, my fault. And then we go back up and make a new high. Somewhere in the middle here, there's a contracting flat. We'll look for that. We'll have to figure it out. So let's see what happens. This goes up, make a new high. we'll get a buy setup. If it's dropping, don't sell it, sell something else. Because this really looks, if it's dropping, it's an incomplete pattern, right? Because this would be your first impulse up. This would be the B wave coming down. Go back up there, and then if we get this, that's a sell, right? We will go with this as the contracting flat. And this is the top. But that is only if we get this pattern, right? If we get that pattern, then we do that option. Aussie CAD. Look for your buy setups. At some point, this thing go back up. At some point, it's starting to die out here. So at some point, it goes back up. Right? So just leave it. Don't sell it. There's no good sell setup there. We'll start to look for the buy setup. It could be a running flat that broke the low here just now. You could go with this as a running flat for the break of the low. I think that would make sense, right? Or you could assume you're in a channel. If we're in a channel, we'll just have to wait until it breaks one of these high, make a flag, and then we'll take the trade. Aussie, New Zealand. Stay away from it. See, this is a big running flat, right? And this one proves to be the big expanding flat. Sorry, I keep saying running flat, the big expanding flat, and it's going up. Like I said, you could start a trade here, but you see that pull back, break even. You take a trade here, that pull back, break even. You take a trade anywhere here, pull back, break. Just leave it alone. New Zealand Swiss. Okay, it's coming down. So if we assume this was the running flat here, then any sell setup here makes sense because we're going to go and break the low. We're coming back to this low. And that means we might break this low. Now it's coming down really slow, but remember the start of this one was the same, right? The start of this here, move here, was really slow, but then they dropped, right? So you start slow, and I mean, then from there you just start seeing stretching, drop, break the low, and then upside. So any sell setup here is good. Not a very clear sell setup as yet. Let it consolidate more, then we take the sell. New Zealand CAD, also downside, there were sell setups, but we're close to that lower point already for which you can go up. So you'd have to watch this low. How low this drop depends on how low the New Zealand dollar probably is going to drop, right? So we'll watch, see how low this goes before. We're pretty much close to breaking this low, right? So if we break that low, it's either a big running flat in the making. I think it's possible. You can look at it as a big, this is corrective, a lot of corrections in it. A big running flat, or something else. We'll see. I don't see whereby with the bigger picture, this is not going to be an impulse. So even if it comes and break this low here, if we do this and break the low, I'll expect them to go back up to the top there for running flat. New Zealand yen. Okay, it did come down as we expected on the 1 hour. And if this was a flag, it was going to drop, but it didn't drop. It actually went up. So take this out for now. And it didn't go up all the way to the top. So this is the dilemma now. Take this off. It went up higher, much higher than expected, and then break down. I still think it's upside. We haven't broken this low. So this piece is doing this, which means this piece has to go back up there. And when we break this top, if this is a flat, we will start to sell. Now, can we look at this as at the contracting flat in here? Yes, those are the two options. We will go with this contracting flat, and that means the contracting flat we saw, I think, was on the Aussie yen or the New Zealand yen is the one we will use. That contracting flat in the middle. So if this goes back up here, this would be a big flat, then we start selling. Selling here is a little dangerous right now. CAD yen. This looks more upside. Although it's coming down, we haven't broken this stuff, and I don't think this would be a flat here, go back up there, because then this whole thing becomes a flat. So I think this is the only one that's telling us that there's a likelihood this goes back up, break the top, and then we turn. Let's see. Do we have a sell setup here? If it decides that it's going to go make a really huge flat, can we look at this and assume this could become a sell? Or we'll have to wait some more, especially if it becomes a flat, then we'll go for it. Right, if this comes down here, go back up there and start to break, we're going to sell. We're going to sell it and see, wait for the bigger flat pattern to play out. And CAD Swiss. Yeah, there is a sell setup here. You can let it pull back some more. Probably let it pull back there, one more drop, and then the upside. We'll go with a running flat here. And let it pull back some more, one drop, and then upside. Swiss yen. This one also is more of a bigger flat pattern, right? This is more of a bigger flat pattern. It did break this structure to the upside on Friday. I think your best trade shouldn't have been here. Your best trade should have been here, right? We had the entry here, then we move it there, then we put it here. You probably would have put it there, and then you put it here, depending on whether you break that low or whether you take this flag to the upside. Now it's making a flat. This goes up there, come back here. That would be a flat for upside. And the final one, wait for a pullback and buy it. Wait for this to pull back here and go for that buy. So take this out, that trade is off. You should close that already. I'll wait for this to pull back here and then go for the bigger flat to the upside. It's a flat that's making for the upside. Okay, we managed to finish this pretty quick. So I'll leave you guys there. We'll close the room. Come back to you in the room in the next 10 minutes. We'll record the other part. Thank you very much. I'll close everything. Come back in the room immediately. I'll be there in 5-10 minutes.